Everybody, we are going to be doing a tooled leather in pink, and we're going to do the outline of it with a racetrack theme. And I see it starting to mess up again, so y'all just bear with me. I'll try to catch it when it does and repeat so that you can still get the gist of what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to turn you down in just a few minutes and explain to you the process that we're going to be doing. I got my inspiration from this photo, and this is leather, but I'm going to make it tooled leather, and then we're going to have this through the center of the cup to meet on the back side, and we're going to do it in black and white, and we're going to do it with the tack-it method. So we'll do 3 parts of this. So I'm going to turn you down, and we're going to get started. And again, I'll try to get you pulled up on the screen so that I can make sure I've got everything lined up. So give me just a minute to try to do that, and maybe it'll cooperate tonight. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. This is a pocketbook that I saw online, or a purse, ever what you want to call it. I call it a pocketbook. So anyway, that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So I think it's working. Right. Okay. And we're going to do it. I'm going to turn my voice down now. And remember that when I do lives, I don't answer questions during the live. I go back and answer any questions after the live is over, either tonight or I'll do it tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. If anybody pops on that's new, be sure and let them know that I don't answer questions when I'm doing a live. But this is the inspiration that I used for the tumbler. So what I did, let me go through the steps. I did my squares, and then I made me, and I'm only using 2 colors. So once I did the squares, I did X and O opposite on all of it, all the way across, and this whole page was squares. And then I cut me a template, and the template I made from one of those sheets that you get from Dollar Tree, 2 for $1, and that's what I used to make it. So, and I took it, laid it down, and I cut this out, and then I did it on this side, and I cut it out. And then I did my tooled leather pattern, and this was 1 whole sheet. And then I took my same pattern and I cut out a piece here and flipped it and cut out a piece here, and that's the parts that I'll be using to do the tumbler. But the first thing that we're going to do, what I did, I wrapped it around the tumbler this way. Let me get it where we want it. I gotta find my marks so that I can show you how I marked them. Got 2 little dots right here that you'll see, and these little dots, I did them for a reason. This is where this side ends or starts, whichever way you want to look at it. And then on this side, this is where this one starts and ends. So that way I know where they're going to join and about where they're going to start. So what we're going to do first, we'll be putting on these pieces. And we're going to do our tooled leather first. So got my little spots here. And I'm going to line this one up, and you can see it's going to go down to this mark. And I need to get me some tape, and we'll tape it. And this is a rose pattern, as you can see, that I'll be using. And I'm going to make sure that it's lined up around the top, and then it'll line up everywhere else. And I've taped my top. If you see, I've taped the bottom, and I taped the top, and I sanded it, cleaned it, and then I painted it. And that's what I did to prep it. And I'm taking this right up to where the tape is. And I'm going to tape it in place. Okay. Now we're going to pull this back. And when you pull it back, make sure all your pieces are coming up. Trim the edge off and lay it back down. And this is the 631 vinyl that I used. I use a lot of it when I'm making decals, and not the ones that's going to be permanent on a vehicle or something like that. Then I use the 651. Okay, so now we're going to pull a little and press a little. Okay, now we've got that one on. Now we're going to go back and we're going to do this one. And let's get it started now. Here we go. As you can see, it comes to where the dot is here. And I'm lining this one up around the bottom. And letting it fall in place as we wrap it. Now I'm going to pull this one up. Make sure I get it back over here where you can see it. Press it down. Now turn it so I can lift it and press it. And I'm looking at it as I'm pressing, make sure nothing's sticking to my release, that it's all sticking to my release tape. Okay, now you can see, and this is the part that is going to wind up being our checkered part. And what I'm going to do now to make it a little bit easier when I do the normally I wouldn't do this, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to tape this off, so when I do the ink, it's going to help keep it from running down into the white. So hopefully we'll be able to do the tack it method tonight. If it does bleed, what I'll do later is tape it, put a coat of epoxy on it, tape it off, and then I'll do the white again, and then we'll do the tack it method. But we're going to see if we can do it this way, so maybe we can get both parts done tonight, and that'll save us a little bit of time. It may work and it may not, but we'll see. See, I think what I'll do is do one up this way first. And we'll take it right alongside that seam. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'll turn a corner down so it'll be easier to pull. And I'm using electrical tape because it will bend as we go around, hopefully, as we go around these curves. Usually you can stretch it and it will bend. And I'm hoping this will work like I'm to keep that from running so that we can get both parts done tonight. But if it doesn't, if it seeps through, we'll just put epoxy on it. Once the epoxy's set, then we'll go back and we'll put another coat of white paint, and then we'll do the tack it method. Okay, that worked pretty good. Now let's do this side. I'm going to go down with it first. And now we're going to go around this side. And what I'm doing, I'm just pulling on it as I'm putting it in place so that it'd go around the curve. And y'all cross your fingers that it works like it's supposed to, because it will save us a step. Okay, now I'm going to go in and see if we can pull off and leave our tooled leather on there. And remember to always, when you pull your release tape, always try to hold it close to your tumbler. There's one little spot that's trying to pull up. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can see the design on there. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side. Try to hold it down close to your tumbler. Well, that one's trying to stick, so I'm just going to help it out a little bit. And there's another one that's trying to come up, so we're going to help it out a little bit. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to have our tooled leather come around this way. And that's what we're going to work on now. So let me press this back down so maybe it's not going to bleed through. If it bleeds a little bit, it won't matter, because we are going to go back and we're going to have some trim to go around this later. But if it does it really bad, well, then we will have to do something different. Now, let's get our gloves on. And remember to tell everybody that I don't answer questions when I'm doing my lives. I go back and answer the questions afterwards. Getting gloves on because this ink does mess up your hands and it's hard to get off. Okay, and like I said, we're going to be using the Flamingo. So I've got me a piece of parchment paper. That'll help keep from getting it everywhere. Got us a brush. And you do this just like when you're doing any color of your ink. We'll put 2 or 3 coats on. The more we put on, the darker it will get. And I did put some watermelon over here in case we wanted to make it a little bit darker, so we could use some of that if we need to. That's not in the plan, but it's there just in case we need it. And I thought using the pink, since we've got a rose tooled leather pattern, would be pretty. And this is similar to doing a wood grain, but it's not exactly like you'd do a wood grain, because it really doesn't matter if you go up and down or across or how you do it. You just want to make sure you get everything covered the first time, and then you go back and start adding some depth when you go back and do your second and third coats, or ever how many coats you need to do. Now, I bought this rose pattern off of Etsy today. I was having a hard time deciding what I was going to do today, and I happened to see this handbag, and when I saw it, I thought, that's it. That's what we're going to do. We have a lot of people in our area that like to go to car races, a lot of women and men. So I thought that would be a good theme for this one. Something a little bit different. And I'm sure you saw in the photo that the checkered flag looked like it had a sheen to it. So that's why I decided to go with, whoops, look at me. Messed it up myself. Let me see if I can get that off right quick before it soaks in too much. The tack it method. Now this is just alcohol that I'm using to wipe this off. That did pretty good. Wipe it a little bit more. And I think that's good enough now that when we put the white on, it won't show. But if you look at the photo, you can see it looks like it's sort of got a sheen to it. So that's why we're going with the tack it method, and we're going to use ultra fine glitter. And don't do like me, be very careful when you go around your edges. Don't get carried away. Okay, now let's go back and make sure we've got all the white covered up. There's a few spots. Right, there's one. And down this seam. And you want to make sure that you got it good around your tape at the bottom and your tape at the top. I think I got all that. Got this seam at the top good. Now we're going to go back and we're going to put another coat on. This time we'll leave it a little bit heavier. And it looks like we may need to go ahead and do some of the watermelon too. We may do that for our next coat. Because I do want it to show up pretty dark. And you can see the difference in more layers that you put on, how it gets darker. And remember, I will go back and answer questions later, and this will have, I'm hoping we can get it done in 3 parts. And the reason I want to go ahead and get the tacked method done tonight is because, with the white, is because that way we will put a coat of epoxy on it and our white will be done. And when we do the checkered part with the black, that way we don't have to worry about the black glitter getting into our white glitter, because our white glitter is already on there and it's sealed. And of course, if this bleeds through and I can't do it that way, I will still put a coat of epoxy on it before I do the black, because we don't want the black getting into the white. Okay, now let's go ahead. I think we'll try some of the watermelon. Get it a little bit deeper color. You can see the color of it now. And if we put a little bit of the watermelon, which is a little bit darker color, it's not a red, but it is a good bit darker than the flamingo. Now that's going to give us a little bit darker color. And I'll have to put this, when we do part 2, I'll go back in and edit the beginning so it shows where it lists everything that we used to begin with. So it'll have this watermelon color in there too. And that way you'll have a list of what you need if you decide you want to do one. And of course you could do it with any color you want to. You could do it with blue, you could do it with purple. You could do it with more than one color if that's what you want to do. Now I'm going over this real lightly with my brush because I want it to sort of lay on there and dry, so it's got a heavy coat. You know, when we do the tooled leather and we use brown tones and black tones, the darker tones, we use the different colors and keep layering them. You can see I got a little bit more on there. That one's a little bit darker, so I want to get it off right away. And that got on there because when I put it on there, it ran over this black tape. Okay. Okay, you can see it's getting darker now. There's some spots got on it where I laid it down on that, when I sprayed that ink and it got on the parchment paper. And then I laid the tumbler down on it. That's where all these little white spots came from. But it's not a problem. We can cover them up. You can see more of them on this other side. I'll show them to you when we get around there so you can see where I laid it down on the paper. Now it's starting to build some. See how it's starting to get this around the leaves now? That's what we're going for. And these white spots here, that's just where I laid it down on the paper, where I had sprayed that ink on my paper towel to clean that spot, and it was still on the parchment paper. And when I laid the cup down, then it took some of the ink off and made the white spots. Turn it this way, y'all, because it's started to run over again. Give me just a minute. Now, stopped it from running down on the white again. Running over on my tape. Put some more on there. We want it a little bit deeper. We may wind up having to go get the red pepper, y'all, to get the depth that I'm looking for. But the more you layer it, right there we had some splatter. Let me set it up this time. Okay. That way I won't lay it down in it. And it's not getting as deep a look as I want around the leaves and the roses. So I may go over to the cabinet and get the red pepper. See if that'll give us a little bit more depth. Because we want it to pick up good around the roses and the leaves. Now you can see it starting to build a little bit. Okay, I'm going to set that up and give me just a minute, and I'm going to run get the red pepper right quick out of the cabinet and see if we can get it to give us a little bit more depth. Okay, now we'll try the red pepper and see if it works. Gives us a little bit more. Let me put top on that one. It's starting to build up some now around the roses, but let's see if we get it a little bit deeper. And you just have to keep working with it till it gets the look that you're wanting. And I'm not pressing real hard with my brush. I'm just really just letting it glide down, basically, is what I'm doing. Start it up here at the top. Be careful when you get down to the tape, and don't do like me and get in a hurry and go over the tape. And this has taken several layers. I hadn't kept up with how many layers we've put on it. Probably about 3 of the flamingo, and then maybe 2 of the watermelon. Then this is 1 of the red pepper. I'm guessing that's how many I did of each one. Starting to build up some now. I'm going to dry it a little bit with the blow dryer, so give me just a minute and it'll make a racket. Okay, now it's getting to look a little bit more like I want it to. See how it's collecting now in the grooves in some places. Some places it's doing it a lot better than it is others, but that's getting to look like we want it to. And then I'll dry it, and then we'll start backwashing it. And wipe a little off. And one thing about using the ink, it's very forgiving, because if you start wiping it off and it doesn't look like you want it to, well then all you got to do is go back and reapply it. And it's easy to do. It's not like working with paint. That right in there is not wanting to collect like I want it to. Now that's a little bit better. I hope y'all can see it well enough to tell what I'm doing. I think next time I'm going to do one more coat, and I'm going to turn the cup and do it in the opposite direction maybe. See if that gives us a little bit more texture. Okay. And I don't want to put so much on there that it's going to run down and get in my white. And in some places it's sticking really, really good, and in some it's not. And that's the way leather is, though. When you look at it, it's some places it's darker than it is others. And after this one, then I'm going to dry it, and then we're going to wash it down some and see what it looks like. See if it does like we're wanting it to. Okay, let's try it with a heat gun. Okay. Now we're gonna take our alcohol and wet our paper towel with it. Don't want it real wet. And I think I'm just going to wipe away from the actual tape. And I'm just barely pressing on it. Let's see where we're getting it on there, and then we're going to turn it, spritz a little bit more. And again, I'm not doing it heavy. I'll turn it again. Spritz it some more. And let me get a clean one and get this that I got up around the top here. Got a lot on that tape where I oh man, clean one spot and it gets on another one, y'all. I should have taped up the whole white, all of it. Okay. Okay, that's looking pretty. Now we're going to start wiping down this way, because I don't want to wipe it into my white. That's bringing out the roses. They're looking really pretty. I'll get me a clean paper towel now, or cleaner. I'm using the one that I used to clean up the white. Just lightly wiping. Oh man, got some more on it again. Good thing I got out a lot of paper towels, y'all. Okay. Okay, Okay, I think that's about all I'm going to do to it. That part of it anyway. Now I'm going to pull the tape after I dry it a little bit, and we'll see if it bled through so much that we can't do the tacket. We'll see what it did. I see it looks like it bled through right there. We may can get some of it off. See right there where the tape overlapped. On that side too. Sticking. Okay. Now, I'll see if I can clean it up enough that we can do the tacket. But if we can't, then what I'll do is let it dry. And when it dries, then I'll tape it back with that black tape. I'll put a coat of epoxy on it. And then I'll tape it back with the black tape and then paint the white again. And I think that's what we're going to have to do, because this is just wanting to smear more and more. But we'll see. Where it's jaggedy around here, that won't matter, because we will be putting some trim on it around through there. Getting some more paper towel. Yeah, I think we're going to have to let that dry. It's just not wanting to clean up now. When it sits on there a long time, it's hard to get off. So what I'll do now, you remember how we did the split? I just went ahead and epoxied over the whole thing, and then I taped it off. And when I taped it off, then we turned around and spray painted it, and then we started with the next step. So that's what we'll do with this one. I'll let this dry, and then I'll go back and put a coat of epoxy on it, and I'll leave it just like it is to put the epoxy on it. When the epoxy's on there and dries, then I'll go back and tape it off just like I had it then, except I'll do it on the tool leather side, and then I'll paint all this white again. And at that point, then we'll do the tacket method. And I'll come on and show you the tacket method, and we'll do it. And we're going to do it with the Black Bear Glitters Ultra Fine. Don't be salty, because we want it to have that look like in the picture. And then the black parts of the checker, then we're going to use this To the Moon and Black. And it's an ultra fine, so it's going to work with the tacket method. So this is our inspiration. And then we are going to have some trim that we're going to put around here. So we'll go back, and it'll be easy. Anything that's not perfectly straight, we can go back and fix that. But this is what it looks like right now. And then we'll go back after this dries good and put a coat of epoxy on it. And then I'll show you that step. And we'll do the tacket method then and put the white on. And once the white's on, then we put a coat of epoxy on it. And then that way, when we put this piece on and we pull, doesn't matter which, the X's or the O's, then that's the part we're going to do tack it on. And then it will be done in black. and we'll do the tacking method, and then we'll spray seal it and put a coat of epoxy on it, and then we'll decide what we're going to put on there. I think I'm going to put something on here to do with Mother's Day. I don't know if this one says Racing Girl. I don't know if we'll put that on there or not, but I don't know. We may put something about Mom down here. We'll see. We'll figure that out when we get there. So y'all have a good night, and remember what I'm going to do now. When this dries, I'll put epoxy on it just like it is. Once the epoxy dries, then I'll tape it back up around on the tooled leather, so we'll have some smooth lines, and paint all this white. And then when that's white, that's when this will go back around the cup, and it will fit in these spots right here. And then we'll pull off either the X's or the O's and do the black, and then that will give us our black and white checkered look. And we'll only have to actually paint the one time with the little squares, instead of having to do the white and pull off squares and then do the black and pull off squares. So that'll just save us one step doing it this way. Hey everybody, we're going to be doing part 2 of our surprise tumbler, which turned out to be a rose tooled leather in pink, and we're doing it then with a race flag theme through the middle. Now this is where I got my inspiration. It's a handbag, and like I said, this part is leather. Got it upside down. This part is leather here and here, and then this is the race flag theme that's going to be going through the middle. We're going to do the race flag theme with tack it, and we're going to do it in black and white. And I'm going to turn you down in just a little bit, and we'll go over what we've done so far. And remember, I always make a card on the tumblers that I do. I date it. I put everything on there that I used on it, the colors, and I also, any font that I use, I put the name of the font on there. And that way you can file it in a file cabinet under tooled leather, and then go back and look for a rose tooled leather. And that way it's easy to find it and go back, and if you need to make it again, then you can use that to make it. Now what we did, when I turn you down, I'll show you how I came up with the pattern. I'm going to turn you down, and I'm going to see if I can get you pulled up. And remember, I don't answer questions when I'm doing lives. I always go back after the live is over, and I answer any questions at that time. So it's not up yet, so we'll give it just a few more minutes. But I'll go ahead, best I can tell, I can see that it looks like you can see. But now this was the size of the cup to wrap the cup, and it's all little squares. And what I did, I made me a template that would match these pieces on the handbag. That's how I came up with that template. So I cut with an X-Acto knife here, and then I cut with an X-Acto knife here. Then this is what will be wrapping around my tumbler for the checkered part. Then this is the tooled leather piece, and I did the same thing. I laid it down and cut a piece here, and then I cut a piece here. And then that's how I came up with the part here that's the tooled leather. And remember, I prepped my cup, taped bottom and top, and then I sanded and I cleaned and I painted it white. And then we went in and we put the tooled leather here and here, and I taped it, and we tried to do it so we could do 2 parts in one night, but the ink bled under it and we couldn't do that. So what I did then, I put a coat of epoxy on the whole cup, just as it was with this white part, and it had the red ink all smeared on it. So I went ahead and epoxied it, and after I did that, then I came back. Now this white tape, as you can see, it's right around where the red tooled leather or the pink tooled leather is, and you'll see that when we pull it off after we finish the tack it method. But I left the tape on there, so today we're going to pick up and we're going to do the tack it. We're going to do all the white in tack it, that way it's done. Then when we put this on to start the process, then all we'll have to do is pull either all the X's or all the O's, do them in black, and then when we pull the opposite off that's left on there, then our white's already going to be there. So we only have to do just the one and paint the squares one at a time. So that's where we are now. and I am going to see if I can get you pulled up again. Give me just a minute. I like to try to pull it up and make sure that everything is in the screen so that you can see it. So give me just a minute. Let's see if we can get it to pull up. I'll have to scroll down just a little bit. There's such a delay. And let's see now if we can get part 2 to come up. Here we go. And we're going to be doing part 2 of 3. Okay, now this is where we're going to start. And my tacket, when I mix my tacket, I got just an extra bottle, and I put half and half. I put half tacket and half water. Now when I put it on there, I see it did pause a little bit, so I'll try to catch up. But when I put tacket on there, I put 1 coat. Most of the time, that's all I have to put on there is 1 coat. But I make sure that I do it smooth, and you don't want any lines and ridges left in it. You want to make sure you get it around your tape good. Anywhere that you've got it taped, you want to make sure you get it around that good. And that's what we're doing. And it's hard to see the tacket when it's white based on white. But because the way you tell when your tacket is ready for your glitter is the milky turns clear. But we'll work on it and get it done. So, but what I'm doing now is just putting a good layer of tacket on there. And I'm taking it right up to where the tape is. See, all the way around. Tape around the bottom. Make sure you got it on there good. And then where it's around the tooled leather, you want to make sure you got it on there good. And I make sure I've got it all over it, and then I go back and make sure I don't have any ridges. So now we're just going to make sure we don't have any ridges. And what I'm doing, I'm just letting the weight of my brush, I'm just barely laying it on there. I'm just enough to hold it, so all I'm doing, and letting it glide by itself. And we'll do that all the way around where we've got the tacket. Rub it very lightly. You don't want any ridges. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit it with a heat gun so we can speed up the process. This part 2 today will be real quick. I'm going to go ahead and get me a cup, put some water in it. I'm going to get the water out of my spray bottle, because I don't want that tacket to dry on my brush. That's one of my brushes that came from Southern Palmetto stainless steel tumblers. She has several sets of brushes that are ideal to work with, and if you take care of them, you can use them over and over and over. So when you invest in a good brush, and I advise you to invest in a good brush for certain things that you're going to be doing. When you're using tacket, you want a brush that the hair's not going to come out of the brush. You want one that will smooth your tacket really well. But as you make tumblers, you learn which brushes to use. Okay, so now I'm going to set that over out of the way, and then we're going to set our tacket out of the way, and we're going to hit this with the heat gun. So it's going to be loud for just a minute or two. But we want to dry our tacket. Now when I say dry, you know tacket does not get dry. It stays tacky, and that's the reason it's called tacket. And the reason it works the way it does when you're using it with your fine glitters and holographic glitters. If it got completely dry, then it would not work. think that's pretty good, but that's why you need tack it and not regular glue. Okay, now we're going to be using, with Black Bear glitters, we're going to be using Don't Be Salty in the Ultra Fine. Normally when I use this, I use the fine, and I've got some coarse, but this time we're going to be using the Ultra Fine because we are going to be doing it as a tack it method. So you want to make sure you've got it all over your cup. Pretty, pretty stuff. And by doing this whole part in the white, and then what I'll do, after this sets for a little bit, I'll spray it, and then I'll go in and put a coat of epoxy on it. And then the next time when we come back for part 3, we'll do our black in the race flag, and then we'll put a coat of epoxy on it together. And then when that dries, then it's ready for whatever kind of design, quote, whatever we decide to go on it. The handbag that is the inspiration for this, it just says Racing Girl. But I think I'm going to put something on it for Mother's Day. I'm trying to get several things ready for Mother's Day. Just want to make sure you got it all covered well. Just go over it one more time. Beautiful, beautiful glitter. Okay, now I'm going to put this back in my jar because what I rub off, I'm not going to put back in the jar. I don't want to take a chance of it messing up my glitter. Okay. Now I'm going to take my trusty brush that I use, so you can see it's a mess, but that's what I use to brush everything with. And I'm going to brush this off right around the edges. And then when we get through, now what we're going to do, we're just going to start rubbing it. And when we do that, we're not bearing down real hard. Just use your fingers and you're going to rub it. And any of this glitter that comes off, I'm not going to use it back in the jar. Sometimes it would be just fine, but you never know when chunks are going to come off that's got glue mixed in with them, and that's not something that you want to go back into your jar. And when I get through with this, I will spray it with a sealer. Brush it off and spray it with a sealer, because I don't want, when I put epoxy on it, for it to gather up and lump up and be a mess. Now I'm going to brush it off. Brush it, rub it just a little bit more. Then we're going to take the tape off. Okay, now let me brush it one more time. Now let's get this out of our way. Hate to dump any of it, don't it? Okay, now we're going to take the tape off. Okay. Now that right in there where that's stuck, I don't know, evidently I got some glue on that, but I'll get that off with alcohol. It won't hurt it because it has a coat of epoxy on it. Now, you can see how by putting that coat of epoxy all over it, we've got good, crisp, clean lines. And this will set, and once it sets, then we will go in and put a coat of epoxy on it. Then we'll come back and we'll put this piece on so that we can pull off, it doesn't matter which, all of our X's or all of our O's, it doesn't matter which we choose, because then that's going to leave all the other squares white. But let's take a paper towel and some alcohol and get that glue off. You can see some of these places right in here where there's glue on it. And we're just getting that off with alcohol because that's not going to hurt our epoxy. And then when we get through, I'm looking for, I hadn't found yet what I want to go around the trim. I'm trying to find something that looks like a zipper that I can actually put around this, and then something with top stitching. But I hadn't found just what I want yet, so I'm still looking for that. So we'll see if we can find that. Let me turn my computer off. One of those crazy messages came up. There we go. And now I'm just getting that glue off, and you want to get it off right when you get through, and it'll come right off. Because you don't want that on your tooled leather when you put your final coat of epoxy on, or your next coat of epoxy. It won't be the final coat. The final coat, hopefully, it may not be, but the final coat will be when we put our race theme on there for the flag. But this gets it off. Okay, and I'll work on it in any places it needs it a little bit more, but now this is where we are so far. And now this is already the back for our white part of the flag. So that way when we put it back on, the only thing we're going to have to do, we'll go back in and we'll use, I'm not sure if I'll use Mod Podge or epoxy to do the black. I may use epoxy simply because I feel like it covers better. And what we'll do, we'll take and put some black paint in our epoxy, and then that way when we put the glitter on the black, it will be a true black. Where if we don't put black paint, we can put it either in the Mod Podge or put it either in the epoxy, whichever way we decide to go. And that will give it a black base to put black glitter on. So that's all we've got for this part. This is part 2, and that's where we are now. And once this dries, then I will spray it with I use the Rust-Oleum 2X clear gloss. That's what I use for my water slides. It's what I use to spray anything with, because I want it to keep a glossy shine on the work that I'm doing. So that is all of part 2. Hey everybody, we are going to do part 2 of our rose tooled leather with a racetrack flag tumbler. And I did add a part. It's going to take 4 parts to get it done. So this will be part 3 of 4. So I'm going to turn you down and I'll let you know where we are at this point. And I saw it did pause a little bit. So once I get you pulled up on the screen, then I can tell maybe if it's pausing when I'm doing it. If not, maybe we can get you some questions answered. If you miss something, just be sure and put them in the comments and we'll go from there and get you some answers. So I'm going to turn you down. The pen's turning and I'm making sure that my cord is not getting in them. They're over here to my left. So now let me see if I can get you pulled up. So give me just a minute. I'll let you know where we are and we'll get started. Maybe it will pull right up. I hope it does. Doesn't look like it's paused right now, so we'll see. Give me just see if I can find it. Sometimes it's right at the top and then sometimes it's not, so it may take us just a little bit to see if we can get it, but I want to make sure that it's not pausing and that everything is in screen so that you can see it. So, okay, let me look right here and see. Okay, I think we're here. Okay, now there's a little bit of a delay, so I want to make sure that you can see, and it looks like you can. So, this one we started, I taped the top and the bottom and I sanded it and painted it white. Then we put our tooled leather pattern on there. And once we did that, then we did our rose leather look. And after that dried, then I had hoped I could do it all with tape and do this part and this part at the same time, but it didn't work. So I had to put a coat of epoxy on the tooled leather. Once that dried, then I taped off the tooled leather after I put a coat of epoxy on it and spray painted all this back white where it had got some bleed from the ink on it from where we did the tooled leather. So once that dried, then I took this off and then we did this with the tack it method. I did the tack it and then we put Don't Be Salty on it and then we rubbed it with the tack it method. Then we put another coat of epoxy on it and that's where we are now. So this is where I got my inspiration. This is a handbag and this part's leather and this part is the racetrack theme. So I decided to do this part in the red tooled leather and then we're going to do the racetrack theme tonight, and that's why I went ahead and did the white part of the checks so that tonight we'll put the whole template on there, but what we pull off we'll only do in black because our white will already be there, so that will save us a step. And then on the fourth part I did find this and print it off. This is supposed to represent a zipper and I wanted a red zipper, and I did it so it would have the zipper and then it's got some top stitching around on the side. So it may work and it may not. So if it does not, then we'll just put some trim on it if this doesn't work out. And this is our pattern that we're going to be using. I made me a template when I did that, and this is just sort of where I got the pattern, but I made it, and it's shown in part 1 and part 2 if you'll go back and look at those, and it will show you the template that I made. So now we're going to put this on, and I'm going to try something new tonight that I have not done. I think Linda with Ellie Bees, she does a lot of the template patterns for the tangram and all those different patterns. She did her black glitter and she did it with just black paint. So we're going to try that tonight and see if it works, and if it doesn't, well then we'll have a boo-boo together. So anyway, we will try it and see if it works. So now I'm going to put on my template and I'm going to line it up at the top if I can. We can make it work. Okay. Taped one side, now I'm going to tape the other side. I'm going to have to take it off and reposition it just a little bit. And then we're wrapping it around. And it is off just a little bit right here, as you can see, but we can fix that. That won't be a problem. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, oh, I got to put my, I just about made a boo-boo, y'all. Hadn't put the release tape on it. I may have already made a boo-boo. Let's see if I can get this. I'm glad I saw that before I went any further. And let me put this back on. Now let's see if we can get this one off without it pulling some stuff off. Can't believe I forgot to put that on. Holding that down. Well, that one came off, but we'll put it back on. Okay, now let me run get some release tape. Give me just a minute. I'll be back. Had to go across the other side of the room and get some cut. So give me just a minute. Okay. Now we're back. Let's see if we can get that on there right quick. Now let me get the scissors and cut that pattern out right quick, and then we'll start again. And all I'm doing is just cutting around my pattern, and I'm not going to do it as nicely as I normally would because I'm trying to do it in a hurry. Okay, now let's try one more time. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can get it placed back on here now. No, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm going to have to reposition my camera. That's the reason I like to always have it on the screen so I can sort of tell if you can see what I'm doing. So I'll do that in just a minute. Get some more tape. Okay, well, let's see if we can get that where you can see maybe a little bit better. It's got a little bit of a delay, so let me give it a minute to see if, there we go. Now, okay, so now we're going to start pulling the, get it stuck down now. We can get it to pick up. There we go. And sometimes you have to just keep working with it for it to pick all the parts up, because you've got a lot of parts here. Got a lot of little X's and O's. And let's see. We'll go ahead and cut this part off so that we can keep it lined up. And it is hanging off a little bit at the bottom, and that's fine. That's not a problem. Okay. Now we're going to start back, and we've got to make sure as we're working with it that everything's staying stuck down. So as I pull it up, you can see right there one of the squares didn't stick. Sometimes you just have to go in with your hands and lay them down. And that's okay too. This part takes a while when you got so many little pieces that want to pull up. And as I'm pushing it down, I'm looking, and if I see any of the pieces coming up, I'll go back in and pull them down. Right, there's one. Go back over here and get it. There we go. There's one on this end trying to stay down. Okay, we just about got it. Okay. Now, here we go, pulling it again. So we've got it down good now. Rubbing it down good. Now we got to go back in and see if we can get the release tape to pull off. And when you're pulling it, remember you want to pull it close to your cup. If you lift up on it, it's more likely to lift up your decal. And I don't know if y'all have, I was watching somebody on YouTube and I thought, what did they say? And they were pronouncing decal. And I thought, well, maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. So I looked it up and did the verbal pronunciation, looking it up on Google. And us Southerners do pronounce it right. They said it is decal. So, now, we're going to pull off all the O's. And we're going to pull them all off at one time. And all the O's we're going to do black. See how pretty that white's going to be when we pull off the X's? And then that step we're not going to have to do. And I'm all about saving time if we can. Oh man, I pulled off an X, y'all. Running my mouth. Let me go back and put it back on. Aren't we glad you can fix what you mess up? There we go. It's not perfect, but it's on there. Now back to the O's. I wish I could hear y'all verbally and y'all could remind me when I do something backwards to what it's supposed to be. But remember, when I'm doing a live, I don't answer questions. I go back after the live is over and I answer any questions after the live, and I'll do it either tonight or I'll do it tomorrow. So if you've got any questions about anything, any of the steps that I did, just be sure and leave your comments and we'll go back and see what we can do about getting you some answers. Right there's a little bitty O. Now, I like to go ahead and put me some kind of rhyme or reason on here as to colors that I'm going to be doing. And since this was just going to have two, that's the reason I went ahead and just put X's and O's. You can see where that was too long. It doesn't matter. And this will take us just a little while. But I think this is going to be a real pretty cup. I hadn't decided yet what I'm going to put on it, but I do want to do it something so that it'd be a good ready to sell for Mother's Day. I've gotten quite a few Mother's Day orders already that I've been working on. But I do like to have some done ready to sell because you always have people at the last minute needing something. So any holiday, it's a good idea to have you a few extras made up if you can. I think maybe Monday night I may do a 10 gram. And of course I'll try to get quite a bit of it done ahead of time, so you don't have to watch me do this over and over and over on it. And it will be done in several parts too, because they do take a while. But I'll try to do it in as few parts as I can so that you can still see what I'm doing. Oh, there's a piece of vinyl that needs to come off. Just about through. Can start our black. Now something that I'm going to do on this side over here, right here where I showed you it was a little bit off, I'm going to take one of these that I pulled off and I'm going to line it up to help keep that straight when I start putting the black on there so it won't get over in the white. And let's see, we'll take one and do the same thing right here. Line it up with that one. And that way we just don't have to be as careful when we're painting. Okay. Now we've got all that ready, so now we can just do our black. And then when it dries, then I'll put a coat of epoxy on. And then we'll come back and we'll see if this idea is going to work. And if it doesn't, well then we'll just use some tape for trim. And we'll work on it together. So I'm going to put a little bit of paint in here and we'll see if this idea works. The idea behind the paint is one thing, using it as a glue as well as with this white, so that the black glitter won't have to have so many coats. Doing it with the paint, that will help keep us from having to have as many coats. Now let me see something that I need to do right quick. You see where I got the paint on the pulled leather? Have to get that off because I don't want it to dry on there. Got to be more careful when I'm going around the edges, right? There we go. Now, and this, they say when you do it with paint, it dries really fast. It's similar to doing it with Mod Podge. So you want to take each one and rub your paint off. I mean, rub your glitter on it when you paint it. Now on this part it doesn't matter if it gets on the white pieces of vinyl. Making sure I get up to the edge. Tap it down. Now I'm going to be real careful when I get up to this edge. And that's why this kind of brush works really well. It's at an angle sideways, and it works really good when you're trying to get right up to the edge. And you can see it's got a point on it. And this came from Southern Palmetto stainless steel tumblers. She has, I know, 3 different sets that the brushes are different shapes. They're really good brushes, and if you use them and take care of them, I don't think you'll have to have any other brushes. This one comes in several sizes. I don't remember right off the top of my head how many sizes, but it comes in several sizes. Several sizes. I think I'm going to do several right around through here while I'm doing. Now, looks like this is going to work good, y'all. Looks like I'm going to have good coverage. And what I'll do when this dries, I'll brush it off, and then at that point, let me see where that one goes. At that point, then I'll spray a sealer on it to keep the black from mixing in with the white and from getting on the tooled leather when I put the epoxy on. And that's the reason I'll seal it. And I may have to touch up a few places, I don't know. We'll see, because this is the first time I've done it using just paint. Now I've taken paint and put it in Mod Podge and done it that way. And remember now, any questions that you got, you leave them, and I will go back and answer them. And there may be some on here already that can answer them. But I think the lady that has the Ellie B's Creations, that has all the different templates, she, I think she's the one that I saw do it with black. If it was somebody else, forgive me, I don't remember. But anytime you can do something to save a step, I'm all for it. Sometimes we have to work like we're on a production line. I know I was listening to one lady today that I watch often, and she said she had made a decision not to do any custom tumblers. She was only going to do the ones that she did on her lives and sell them, just to take some of the stress off. Yeah, go right up to the line. This glitter is just beautiful. This is To the Moon and Black from Black Bear Glitters. To the Moon and Black. Ooh, I dumped it then, didn't I? Okay, I'm doing all around the edges first. That way when I get to the other part, it'll be much quicker. I think it will. Feel like it will. See where I got paint on me. And this just have to just take your time. Oh, let me hold it a different way so I can get that lined up. Go from a different angle. Okay. Trying to keep it where y'all can see it, and it's sort of awkward. That's why I thought if I left the middle open where I could use it to put my finger on as my pinky guide, then when I start the middle it'll be a lot easier. Taking it right up to the edge of the tooled leather. There's one little spot I just got. Let me get it cleaned off. Okay. I got it right back on there, y'all. There we go. Doesn't take much paint. If this works, it's going to be a good thing. And I know when she did it, it worked, so maybe it'll work for us. Now, I think she used the Arteza paint when she did hers, so. And this is just paint from Hobby Lobby or somewhere. I don't even remember where it came from. In a tube. And I think probably the tube because it's a little bit thicker than in a bottle. I don't know that it would even make any difference. Might not make a difference whatsoever. And all this that you see getting on the cup in here, all that will brush off. But I won't brush it until I make sure that the paint's dry. That's the reason I wanted to get everything epoxied before I did this. That way the black is not going to contaminate the white. And it's one more step than sometimes you want to take, but I had rather take that step and let it dry than have to go back and do a lot of cleanup. Now this is where I overlap that tape because it was a little bit short. And I think it did the job. That way I don't have to be quite as careful. Just when I'm going up to the tooled leather, I'm trying to be real careful. Still having to go back and every once in a while a little spot wipe it off. Woo! Okay. Isn't that black glitter pretty? Y'all, when I first started doing cups, the very first cup I made, not knowing, I used black glitter, and it was black glitter that came from Walmart. And the cup, oh, it just turned out so pretty till I put epoxy on it. And that black glitter looked like tar. I mean, it was horrible, horrible. It was just a cheap glitter. Yeah, I didn't have any idea. It wasn't the onyx that Walmart has. It was the really cheap glitter. So, anyway, we learn a lot as we go down the road, don't we? And glitter's pretty much like anything else. You sort of get what you pay for. And I'm so glad that I get now from Black Bear Glitters. Any color that I get from there has just been fabulous. I've been so pleased with it. Now I can speed things up. Like I said, oh, I'm going to have to pull. That I missed. Right here. There we go. And like I said, when I get through with this, there's another one. And it dries, then I'll brush it off and I'll put a coat of epoxy on it. I'll brush it off and seal it. And then I'll put a coat of epoxy on. And then we'll come back for part 4. And that's when we're going to try and do our zipper and see if it works. It may not even show up. You know how clear water slides are, and that is a clear water slide. So it's just something I'm going to test and see, and if it doesn't work, well then, like I said, we'll just put some trim around and use it to go around it to finish it off. Shaping up, y'all. You're beginning to see that you can tell it's a race flag. I got to make up my mind what I'm going to put on it as a quote. No mama like a racing mama. Happy Mother's Day. I know there's a lot of women that really enjoy racing. Not necessarily driving, but going. I like this when we get to the middle and you just can go wild with your paint. Don't have to be so careful. Almost all the way around. Have my gloves out here, but I didn't ever put them on, but I should have. You can see all the black paint all over me. But this is water-based, so it'll be easy to get off. Okay. Now let me get this back in here, and I'm going to get my brush in some water, and then I'll dry this with the heat gun, And we'll start pulling some of the tape that's still on there off. Okay. Let me get some water right quick to put my brush in. Like I said, if you take care of your brushes, you don't have to buy so many. If you get good ones, they last. Now I'm just going to set that brush over to the side, and I'm going to hold this down into a trash can, y'all. Let me get this on cool because I don't want it to heat up. And I think I will get my little trusty brush, y'all, that I always use, and I'm holding it over the trash can. And I'm brushing a lot of this off that's on the tooled leather. So there won't be quite as much going everywhere. Yeah, you can see where I've started brushing it off. Now let's see if we can dry it a little bit. And like I said, my heat gun has several settings, 1 to 7, 7 being the hottest. So doing something like this, I don't want to heat up the epoxy because I don't want this black glitter to stick to the red tooled. So that's the reason I didn't want it to heat that up. Now I'm just going around cleaning up the edges some more. And I don't want to wipe that off too much because I don't want to wipe off because it's not dry all the way around. Where we first started, it would be dry, but it's not dry all the way around. There we go. Now, is that pretty? It's gonna be, I think. Now, let's go back in and see if we can push some of this out of our way. And we'll pull some of this white off and see. And it's best when you use glue or tape that you pull your decal or any kind of guide that you've got off as soon as you can. That way it doesn't come as near pulling up what you don't want pulled up. And I'm not going to keep y'all here for me to pull all this off. I just want to pull just enough that you can sort of start seeing what it's going to look like. And then I'll pull this off camera, because it's going to take a while for sure. But this way you can just sort of start to see what it's going to look like. And then what I'll be doing, I'll go through and pull all of this off and clean up little spots like that right there. But it looks like it's not going to have a second coat of glitter at all. Using that black paint, I think that worked. So we'll have to remember that when we're doing any kind of a tangram or any kind of a design like this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to log off, and I'm going to do that off camera because I don't want you folks to sit here and watch me pull decals. Let me get that cup out of the way. Get up here where I can tell you good night. And I'll show it to you after. What I'll do, remember, I'll pull this off. After it dries, then I'll dust it off with a brush lightly, and then I'll spray seal it. And then I will put epoxy on it. Spray sealing it will help keep that black from getting into the white and getting into the tooled leather. And then once that's done, then we're going to come back and we're going to see if this idea I had for the zipper will work. And if it doesn't, well, then we'll just put some trim on it for part 4 and put a coat of epoxy on it. And I may have my decal by then with whatever kind of quote I want to put on it, and we'll put that on there. So y'all have a great rest of the evening, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Hey everybody, we're going to be doing part 3 of our pink tooled leather tumbler that has a race flag design. It's doing it again, y'all. So I'm going to turn you down in a few minutes, and we're going to see if we can get you pulled up on the screen, and we're going to get started on part 4. Originally I had it set for 3 parts. But I saw it was going to take 4, so we did go back and change it to 4. And at the beginning of the live, where the announcement is, it does have a list of all the products that we used and where I got them. So I'm going to turn you down, and hopefully it won't keep pausing. If it does, just put any of your questions in the comments, and then I'll go back and see if I can answer them for you. And remember, when I'm doing a live, I don't answer questions on the live. I just go straight through the live so that it can be quick and you can watch it in a hurry. And then I answer any of your questions after the live is over. So I'm going to turn you down, and then I'm going to see if we can get the screen pulled up. So give me just a minute. We'll turn you down because I like to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. I see it just paused again, but let me see if I can get it pulled up on the screen, and we'll go from there. So give me just a minute. Usually with the delay, sometimes it pulls right up. We'll see what we can get it to do. See some pictures pulling up of mine, so let's see if we can get it. Hey, there we go. It did pull. Let me turn the volume down now, and we'll go. Okay. Now, okay. What we did, I'm going to go over how we started this. This was the inspiration for my cup. It's a handbag. I call it a pocketbook. But anyway, this design, and this is, of course, leather. And I decided to do this part in tooled leather. And I tried to work something out that would look like a zipper, but it did not work out. So we've gone another route. But anyway, once I did this, then I did a pattern like this. And I did this square the size of my tumbler, so it would wrap around my tumbler. And then I thought, well, I've got to get this part done. So what I did, I just took one of the mats. You can get 2 for $1 at Dollar Tree, and you can see what it is. And this is the template that I cut out. And once I did the template, then I just laid it on my other template, and I just cut it here, and then I laid it over, and I cut it here. And that's how I came up with this design. And then I just pulled this part off and just left this. And each square I did in X's and O's so I could have black and white. And then I cut a tooled leather pattern. And with this pattern I took the same template, and then I cut out here and I cut out here so that the template to make it fit and make it work together. And so then what I did, of course, I prepped my cup. I taped top and bottom, sand, and then I spray painted it white, and then I did the tumbler with white Don't Be Salty glitter, and I did tape it off, and I did that after I put the tool leather on. I did that, and I did it with the tack it method, so that my white part would already be done and I wouldn't have to go back and do anything to that. So that's how we came up with that. And then I put epoxy on it, and then I put the tool leather on. And when I put the tool leather on, then we went ahead and we did the tooled leather look, and it's not quite as dark as I'd like it to be, but I thought it turned out pretty good. I'd like for around the roses to be a little bit deeper, but it just didn't turn out that way. So, but anyway, I think it's going to turn out pretty. So that's where we are now. I did go in and I did sand some rough spots after I put a coat of epoxy on it that we would need to work on. And then I put the black glitter on, and I did it just using black paint in a tube. And that's what I used for my glitter for the black. Pulled off all the ones that were X's, and when I pulled all of them off, well, then I did each one black and put the glitter on, let it dry, and then I brushed it off, and then I put a coat of epoxy on it. And then this part was done, and I had a coat of epoxy on everything. And then this was the point where I was going to try to do the zipper look around here. And of course I could go in and put a real zipper on it, but I don't want to do that. I don't. To me, I'd rather have it a smooth cup. So what I did in this packet that I had bought, I found, let me find where it is, this little design with the silver heart. Now this one has silver hearts, but I like this one better since we've got the black and the white. So that's what I chose to go with. I went ahead and did one side, as you can see here. And we're going to do this part together. But I have got some spots that I sanded that was rough, that I knew when we got ready to put epoxy on it, they would need to be sanded down. So that's where we are now. And now we're going to put this on. And then this is the decal that I made to go with it. Now it had a red heart here, but then I thought, well, since it's black and silver on this, I would go ahead and put a silver heart here. So that's what I did. I changed it to a silver heart, and so it would match this. So that's going to be the decal we're going to put on, and the decal's going to go at an angle right in here. So we'll put that on after we get this tape on. Now, one thing about the tape, it's not stretchy, so it does have several little wrinkles, not around the outside here, but around this inside part here. There's several little wrinkles in here that I have not been able to push out, but I think they'll be fine. They're not going to show that much. So anyway, so now we're going to do this side. So let's get started on that. That's where we are now. Let me find the beginning of it. Okay, get my scissors because I need to cut that part I just wrinkled up. Cut that off. Okay. Now, let's see. We need our hearts facing inside like this. So I'm starting right down here where I put my tape. And I'm going to put that down. And then as I'm turning it, I'm stretching it a little, but this is paper, so it's not going to give like it would if it were vinyl. So we're just going to do it a little bit at a time, and sometimes we have to take it up and put it back down. I did with the other one several times to get it going like I wanted it to, because I want it to sort of be half on the racetrack flag and half on the tooled leather. So let's just keep pressing it and working with it. Pressing it and working with it. And you know, I've learned over the years of doing tumblers, that's one thing you've got to learn to have is patience. And be willing to keep working at something with a tumbler to get it like you want it. And then it doesn't always turn out just like you wanted it. Like I wanted that zipper to work, but it didn't. So had to go back to the drawing board. And yes, I just keep pulling it up a little bit and pressing it down. I'm trying to keep the heart smooth, so any wrinkles in it will be above the hearts. That's what my goal is right now. Let me roll that up because I don't want to mess it up any more than I have to. And remember, I don't answer questions when I'm doing a live. Now, I did have a lady that saw the beach cups that I posted recently, the 3, and she wanted to know would I do a live on that, so we may pick up on that in a couple of weeks and do one, but we won't do one right away, but I'll be glad to do one in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to let that go over just a little bit, so when we do the other one to match up against it, then we'll have, okay, where we can start right here. Let me look and make sure that's the way the other side's going. Yeah, the heart's inside. Okay, now I'm going to take it right down to this, and we're going to trim it right here. Okay, now we got that done and out of the way. Now what I'm doing is just pressing on this, and I don't know if you can see the wrinkles in it. I'm going to wait and let the delay get it up on the screen to see if, no, it won't be where you can see them, but there's little tiny wrinkles right in here. And that's what I'm working on right now. And just take, and if you've got a silicone stir stick, you can use that, and it really works better than your finger. So that's another use for this tool. If you're doing any kind of you can use this side or the other side. If you're doing any kind of vinyl or anything like this that you've got places you want to smooth down a little bit better, this is a good thing to do it. And this won't hurt it because it's not rough, it's soft. And I got this at Black Bear Glitters. It's a silicone stir stick. So this is another use for your silicone stir stick. Okay. All right. Now, I think that trim looks pretty good. Looks as good as the zipper would. Okay, now this is 2 layers. I did a white cutout. Pulled everything off except the white shape of the hand and the white shape of the flag. Then I did a black cutout, and I left everything on there except for the heart, and I pulled the heart off, and then I layered the black on top of the white. And then where I pulled the heart out, I had cut a silver heart to go here rather than the red heart, and I did the silver so that it would match the silver in these hearts. So this is what we're going to put on next, and then I'm going to put a coat of epoxy on it, and it will be ready then when somebody gets ready to purchase it. It'll have room, and I'll show you when we get through, have room over here or up here to put a name or a monogram or whatever else that you might want on it. But that's how I layered it when I cut it. And have to keep working with it. Some vinyl will pull right up, and some is hard to deal with. So you just have to work with it a little bit at a time till you get it coming up like you want it. And this cut pretty good, even with a little polka dots and squares and everything that we had to cut. Whoops. Get that E back in there. Okay, now I'm just going to sort of eyeball this. Let me get something on here to keep it from rolling. Okay, let's rub it down really good. And now use my X-Acto knife to get that corner up. And remember, when you pull your decal off, now this is going to have 2 pieces of vinyl on it because one was not, I didn't cut it big enough, so I just went ahead and layered one over it. And then it's got another one where I cut this little piece for the hand and put it on separate. See, there's the other little piece. And then now we're going to pull this one off. And the dot, and I'll show you, right here in the A and in the A and the E's was so tiny that I didn't even try to weed that, because I knew getting it on here, it would weed a little bit easier. So, and that's what you call reverse weeding. When you put it on there and, well, not really reverse weeding. Reverse weeding is when you leave your, all your backing and just pull your letters out. But this makes it much easier if you've got some real tiny spots that you're trying to weed. If you go ahead and put them on your project and then weed it that way, it weeds a lot easier than it does to try to pull all those little tiny spots off with it on the paper. Okay. I think that got them off. Get all that A off. Okay. All right. Now we've got peace, love, and racing. Okay, and some of you may be new and you may have not seen me how I mix my epoxy, so I thought, well, this one, since it's going to be a short live, we'll go ahead and put our epoxy on it. So we'll do that, and I'll show you how I do my epoxy. Now I have my little brand that I put on all my stuff. I've got them cut out, so I'm going to put one of those on there before I put this coat of epoxy on there. And let me get that out. And I put it on all my tumblers. And somebody asked me, did I ever have anybody say anything about it? And I've not once ever had anybody complain because I put it on there, because I feel like, well, this is my signature after I do a project. So, and that's okay. If they don't like it, well, then that's okay too. So, all right. So now I use spoons when I mix my epoxy. I don't use syringes, or I mix in a measuring cup, but I don't measure. Now this measuring cup has got all these little marks on it where you can measure, I think in milliliters or centimeters, or this side's got ounces, this side's got centimeters, and this side's got tablespoons on it too. But I can see this, so that's what I'm going to do, the way I always do it. So, and I don't think there's any rhyme or reason why you mix first what you do, but I just, when I mix mine, I mix the B first, and then I put in the A. The B is thinner, and when I put it in, I like to put it in and then pour the A into it in the middle of it. And then when I mix it, it seems to mix easier. And I use Alumilite Amazing Clear Cast. And I found something that I'm really in love with. I used it on this cup, and I used it for the first coat. And then I used it on the 3 that I put on there that are the beach theme tumblers, the yellow and the orange and the pink ombre beach tumbler. And I used Quick Coat, and it's by Amazing Clear Cast. It has the A and the B, just like the other, but in 4 hours you can go to your next step, and I am in love with it. These 4 cups are the first ones that I had used it on after I had ordered it, and it made it so much easier. I could get them done in no time. I mean, if I were doing 3 steps on a cup, I could do all 3 steps in one day and then have it turning that night, take it off, and then let it cure for 72 hours. So instead of it taking 5 or 6 days, I could do that 1 tumbler in 4 days, because I would do everything that first day, let it turn that night, and then let it set for 72 hours before I send it out. I don't send any cup out unless it's cured for 72 hours. It feels dry, and you think it's dry, but a lot of times it's not dry enough. It hasn't cured long enough. And I've seen so many people that would go ahead and mail them because they felt dry and wrap them in bubble wrap, and then they had indentions all over their cup and they didn't know why. Well, that's why. It has to cure 72 hours before you really use it. So that's how I mix mine. And then I have got the Amazing Clear Cast Plus in, but I'm not going to start using it until I finish this batch of the regular Amazing Clear Cast that I've got. So I will be using the Casting Craft translucent blue dye, and I put not even a drop. That's why I barely touch my little stir stick to it. And you can see there's just very little in there. And that's what I'll be using to stir in it. And when I'm mixing for a 20 ounce, normally I use, this is a half of a tablespoon that I use. And then when I'm mixing my 30 ounce, I use a full tablespoon of A and a full tablespoon of B. And then when I'm doing my epoxy method for my glitter, I only use 1/8 of a teaspoon of A and 1/8 of a teaspoon of B. You mix that, I mix it for 2 minutes just like I would any of the other, because I want to make sure it's mixed properly. But then I heat my cup with a heat gun, and when I do that, then that makes that little bit go a long way. Now this I'm gonna stir for 3 minutes, and we'll then get the cup turning and get some epoxy on it. And that way, some of you that have not seen that I mix the epoxy that way, I know a lot of people mix it different ways, and they use different things to measure, and we're all different. That's just something that I've used ever since I've been doing tumblers, and I've used the same measuring spoons for over 4 years. So that's what I use. And then I pull my tape as soon as I'm through with my epoxy. So that way you can see that process too, that I do pull my tape right when I'm through. And I guess you can hear my turner over there. I got a bunch of pins turning that I'm working on for a customer. So, and I'm in the process. I've got my big 6-cup turner to my left. Excuse me. And I'm going to try to move it over in the other end of the room and then just work off of this one, and then transfer my cups as I get through back to the back of my work area. But remember, any questions that you've got, just be sure and put any questions in the comments. And I'll get you some answers when I get off the live. If I can't, for some reason, get it done right when the live's over, then I'll go back and do it tonight while I'm sitting upstairs with my hubby. And last night, I don't know if any of you saw, yesterday Tia did a live, and John did a live, and then Rick and Kelly did a live, John and Jessica, and I enjoyed them last night too. Used to, Jessica wouldn't get on the camera, and neither would Kelly. And I noticed last night she did get in front of the camera a little bit, and I enjoyed seeing them both together. So that was neat, seeing John and Jessica and Kelly and Rick together. And Kelly and Rick have really, and I think Jessica and John have too, come a long way with their businesses, and it's taken a big step to quit your job and go into a home-based business. And to me, what I do is not really, I don't consider it really like arts and crafts. To me, arts and crafts is something that I did when I was a little girl, that I made, and I enjoyed making things, and I've done it for years and years and years. But just for my home or for gifts or something like that. But now, as you make them and you sell them, then to me that's a full-fledged business. And to me it's artwork. And I consider it art rather than just crafts. So, anyway. Just consider what you do as an art, because you are an artist if you're making cups. And I think Rick making tumblers, he's a carpenter. And all of the boards that he does and the tables that he does, they're very neat, and it takes a lot of talent to do all that. Okay, I'm cleaning epoxy off my hands if y'all wonder what I'm doing. Okay, now let me get my glove on. And we'll let that set just a little bit for some of the bubbles to die down. Now, when I did the quick coat, you stir it really slow, and it had very few bubbles. And you really don't want to hit it much with your heat gun or a torch. And, I mean, they just, what little were there, they just popped right away. So, I'm in love with that, and it's great if you're in a crunch. And a lot of the quick coats, they say you cannot use them as your last coat. But now everything I've read and heard them say about the amazing Clearcast quick coat, you can use it as your final layer of epoxy. So that's why I said you could really get a cup going in one day and pretty much get it all done. So, yeah, getting my parchment paper under my tumbler. Let me see. We can get this turned where you can see it a little bit better. Let me see the delay in the screen. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to put this on. It's still a little bubbly, but those bubbles will go away. And where I've got my washi tape and my decal, I'm going to put the epoxy pretty heavy so I don't have to bear down until I get it covered good. So my hand will slide over it a little better. But I think the cup turned out pretty good. So we'll see if somebody that enjoys racing, or they know their mother enjoys racing, or their wife, or their sister, they may want to give them a gift of this racing cup. Peace, love, and racing. I sort of liked that quote when I saw it. And you want to make sure that you get your epoxy up around the tape, around the top. And that's what I'm doing now. And this, most likely, it will be ready to go after this coat. But then usually when somebody wants one, unless they're just in a hurry to get a gift, they want it personalized. So once it's personalized, then you can put another coat of epoxy on it. But I think it turned out pretty good. And I've got several cups I've got to do. It's designs you've already seen me do, but I may go ahead and do some lives on them. I may do one tomorrow. I won't do another one today, but I may do one tomorrow. Now I'm going to leave just a little bit of epoxy in here. Remember, I always try to leave a little bit, so if any little divots or repelling or fish eyes or anything comes up on the tumbler, then I can take a popsicle stick, or I can take my trusty spatula and drop a little bit on there, and that will usually help make some go away. So now I'm going to hit it with my torch. And remember, when you're using your torch, you want to keep it moving. You don't want to let it stay in one spot on your cup. Now I did, after I did the black glitter, I did seal it really good before I brushed it off with a brush, and then I sealed it really good before I put the coat of epoxy on it, because I didn't want it smearing up into the tooled leather. Okay. Now we're going to pull our tape. Pull it off the top first. But the other tumblers that I've got to do, I've got another gypsy leopard to do. Y'all have seen me do a gypsy leopard. And that's not something I came up with. The gypsy leopard's not. I saw somebody else do it. And then I've got a full water slide wrap to do. And I've got a teacher's tumbler that has the Crayolas on it with the teacher's name. And I've got a lady that just wanted one with red and silver glitter. And then I've got a fabric tumbler to do. I had a man come in my son's shop. I help him on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I had a man come in there and see a fabric tumbler that I did with Georgia Tech on it. Georgia Tech fabric. And he wanted me to make one for him, for his neighbor, in a smaller, because it's a 40 ounce, the one I've got there. And he wanted a smaller one, so that's another one I've got to do that will be a fabric tumbler on a 20 ounce. And 3 of them I'm going to do, 3 of them I'll be doing, they'll be 32 ounce cups, so they're pretty good size cups. So, let me wait for the delay and make sure you can see it. We'll let it turn. And that is it was going to be a surprise because at the time I didn't know what I was going to do. Then when I decided, I just kept labeling it surprise tumbler, but then I put that it would be a pink rose tooled leather with a race flag design. And then I used ink on it and then used 2 different colors of glitter. So that's what we come out with, and that's all I've got on that one for today. So